The following is the views of MC and Jester. If you don't like our views, don't listen to our podcast.
Welcome to Me Podcast. You listen with Jester and MC.
All right, welcome to Me Podcast. You listen. This is Jester, and I'm here with MC.
Hello, guys.
And again, we have our special guest coming all the way from backwoods. As today, we have him live on Skype. The wrestler of all time, Northern Arizona, Rocky.
Hey, thanks, Jester. Thanks, MC, for having me back. It's a pleasure to be back in the podcast.
Yes.
All right.
And
Well,
we're happy to have you back to talk about some wrestling this week.
that's what we're going to talk about is some wrestling. And we're going to talk about, I don't know when this actually aired on pay-per-view, but WWE Survivor Series. Again, my wrestling expert panel here with Rocky and MC. So we're going to go ahead and let them get started as I watch some of the highlights on my phone right now.
Yeah, so
Excellent.
something I found out pretty funny, Rock and Jester, recently is anybody who's watched this pay-per-view knows the result was a clean sweep on the regular pay-per-view of Raw over SmackDown. Now, where they're going exactly with this, or if this is just to reiterate that Raw is the superior brand, much to the chagrin of Fox, who paid the $1 billion contract for SmackDown. There was actually a fuck up, I think, on the pre-show. Supposedly, Raw was supposed to win that too, but SmackDown won that tag team on the kickoff show, and then they ended up not counting it, which was really strange. But I don't know if you heard about that specifically, Rock. But I just had discovered that was a snafu, I guess, apparently.
Wow. So I didn't know it was a snafu, but it was very awkward hearing Corey Graves say, "Oh, well, it wasn't a clean sweep. SmackDown won the pre-show. Why isn't anybody counting this?" And then the other panel was like, just shut up about that. That didn't happen.
No, it doesn't count. It's not on the main pay-per-view.
Yeah, doesn't count. It's just pre-show. Pre-show doesn't count. Yeah, I don't understand what WWE's doing with their booking. I really don't. This pay-per-view, again, 2 in a row, made no sense whatsoever. A clean sweep of Raw. Everybody knows Raw's the superior brand. They've won Survivor Series now for the 3rd time in a row, and not only did they clean sweep, but they pretty much buried SmackDown in every aspect. Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't. Where are they going with it? I don't get it.
I don't know. This to put it into context and stuff. This one took place November 18th, 2018, in Los Angeles, California, in the Staples Center, and it's notable for its strange appearance of Enzo Amore, and I want to get Rock's thoughts on this too. This fired wrestler Enzo Amore, who was, I would say, exonerated of his rape charges that happened in coincidentally Phoenix, Arizona. He actually just showed up in the crowd. I think he was standing on his chair yelling. This would be pretty much taboo, Rock, you'd say, from your training and experience. I'm pretty sure you'd have some thoughts on this. If a guy comes to a show who was fired from the promotion and starts making a stinking commotion, what would you guys do to them if somebody came to one of your old feds and started trying to hijack the event?
Well, I mean, what would I do to him? I mean, if
what would the boys
we're talking,
do, so to speak?
If I was in the middle of a match, let's say I was in the ring out there and I was working, and Enzo decided to stand up and try to hijack the show during the middle of my match, I would proceed to go outside of the ring and beat the shit out of him.
Would you?
There's no way around it.
Would you end the match? Would you just get out of character and just go down and start fighting this guy?
I mean, I would do it in such a way to where it wouldn't ruin the match per se. Obviously, you do a takedown spot, and if the guy is really causing an obscene commotion and he's causing the audience that has paid to come see you, that's taking your spotlight, and this guy's trying to take your spotlight away, absolutely, I'm going to go out there and beat the crap out of him.
So why do you think that wrestlers who are fired from a federation, I mean, obviously this guy feels like he wants to be in the spotlight somehow, and this is going to be, no matter what kind of press he gets out of this, it's going to be negative press, it's going to be good press for him. Do you think that it's why do you think that as a professional in the profession, like I would look at it as, if someone's a professional in what wrestlers do, that it would just be out of courtesy that you would never do that during a live match, because it's not just interrupting the match, but it's kind of putting a bad look on professional wrestling in general, because then and now it looks like a high school situation where someone wants to be popular and they try to interrupt the crowning of the prom king by saying, I'm the prom king. That's how I kind of looked at that. Is, as a professional, I looked at it as like, that's not even professional. Like, he just ruined his career in wrestling in general by interrupting what wrestlers do as a profession. So to me, it just kind of ruined it for everybody, the fans, everything in that, even the TV show, everything else. It just kind of made it a bad experience. So why do you think that a wrestler, if you got fired from something, why do you think that you would have to make an appearance on a live event? Why couldn't you just show up in the locker room or show up at a non-live event and just plead your case?
Nobody likes him. You know, that's the thing. Like, he had a notorious reputation for being arrogant, pompous, huge ego. He went into business for himself here in the middle. I believe this was in the middle of the bar, an AOP match. The guy went so far, Amore, to disguise himself in a hoodie and stuff, so he wasn't noticed until then. And then when it became clear what he was doing, the security dragged him out pretty quick. They dragged his ass out and kicked him out of the building. I think what Rock was saying true. I mean, if they had to drag him through the locker room, in old school days, he'd probably get the shit kicked out of him. But no, they just booted his ass out. But yeah, I think he probably knows he's, probably going to be really hard for him to get back in anyways. This might just put the icing or the cherry on top of career suicide as far as WWE is probably concerned. This guy's acting out of control like a big jackass, and he's probably trying to stay relevant, knowing his 5 minutes of fame is up. And I'm pretty sure if they know where he's at or what he might be doing, there's probably somebody watching him to make sure that this don't happen again.
But don't you think this is probably it for him in the whole wrestling business?
Yeah, absolutely. He's there. I mean, we've seen some really strange comebacks. We've seen, Vince McMahon forgive a lot of people and bring people, controversial people back, people who have screwed his corporation over. I don't see, especially in this day and age, with how easily everybody gets offended and how political everything is, and especially how everything is publicly traded now with the WWE. I can't see them ever bringing Enzo Amore back. I not only because he's not a wrestler, but just the fact that he just doesn't respect the business at all. And I mean, he really wasn't that big of a draw. I think in his mind, in his world, he thought he was the biggest, baddest thing out there. And yeah, he did have some fans. He was fairly entertaining, but at the end of the day, he really wasn't all that great. And I just don't see I don't think Vince sees dollar signs on this guy. And if you really want to get a backroom perspective on Enzo Amore and how the boys in the back feel about him, all you gotta do is YouTube Simon Gotch Enzo Amore and listen to what he's got to say. He pretty much sums Enzo up in 1 2-minute statement.
Yeah, pretty much. Not to give any more probably airtime to Enzo as we already have here. Yeah, I think that probably sums it up there. Any stupid thing Enzo probably has ever done, I think Gotch is probably covered. And a glorified cruiserweight when Vince looks for giants, who's going to bring controversial press as far as potential, that potential rape thing. They just want to get as far away from this guy as possible. And
I agree.
And I think that's pretty much what it's going to be from this point. The guy is, I would never say never, but I would feel like you'd have to have half your roster depleted by injuries or something to even probably entertain bringing somebody like this back, and even then, I highly doubt it.
So, looking at the reviews of this match, it kind of looks like, I don't know, some of these matches, it just seems like it's just the same old, like Rocky says, the bookings. It almost looked like an NXT kind of show where there was a bunch of names I've never even heard of, and I know it's a SmackDown versus Raw, and Raw has always been the staple of WWE, in my opinion, and ever since watching it when I was young. But it just seemed like the best match of the evening, even though it wasn't the last match, was that Ronda Rousey versus Flair. And I don't know what you guys, I know you guys are probably going to talk about that, but watching that, the one thing that sticks out of my mind of the whole match is Ronda Rousey's makeup looked terrible. It did.
Yeah, she's something like out of that Tina Turner movie, the what the hell is
the Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
Mad Max, yeah, she's got some weird makeup that's out of the original Mad Max. Well, I guess they had it in the remake too. Yeah, she's doing some kind of Warrior Mad Max look, which I
couldn't stop looking at, like, her mascara was running, or she had two black eyes, or she was trying to look like a raccoon, or whatever it was. But that was kind of distracting for me as watching the match. I just kept thinking, man, her makeup looks terrible. And but I did think the match itself kind of took that turn of, like, it was a very physical, very hands-on, like they were going all out in this match, in my opinion, and kind of taking it to the top where I think it was, in my opinion, it was probably one of the best matches I've seen during that pay-per-view.
Yeah, there wasn't.
I completely agree.
Yeah, there wasn't a finish to the match, but for sheer brutality, I think, and because of the scheduled match, it'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. It was the build up to the actual match that was supposed to happen, which was supposed to be Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, who still is, as of we record this, the one of the hottest acts in wrestling, and still is the SmackDown Women's Champion. She was punched in the eye less than a week earlier in the final promotion on Monday. Raw actually broke her face, so to speak, and so Nia Jax did that, and consequences of that was Becky was not clear to compete, so she had to pick a replacement. It became last minute. Charlotte Flair was picked as a replacement, and she stepped in. And I think she was there to prove a point that this isn't just this isn't a replacement match, or this isn't giving away a WrestleMania caliber match. She's gonna make this really physical and memorable, and I think she had something to prove in a match. And yeah, it showed. It was, except for the finish, but I think that just makes you want to see the rematch when it will be better, properly promoted.
Yeah, this was supposed to be this year's WrestleMania big main event for the women's championship, Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. Yeah. Let's rewind the clock a little bit, just like you briefly talked about. This match was supposed to be Becky Lynch going into the match against Ronda Rousey. Yeah. Let's talk about Nia Jax punching Becky right in the face. Do you think it was a receipt? What are your thoughts on that, MC? I'm very curious.
I don't know. There's nothing I've heard that other than it was just an accident.
Did you watch the slow-mo video of it?
Yeah,
how do you accidentally punch somebody in the face? People get off assault charges by saying accidentally.
It did not look like it was an accident at all, in my opinion. It looked like a deliberate, straight punch to the face. I don't know if, like, right before that, maybe Becky kneed her really, really hard, and that was a receipt. I don't know, but I just don't see any way that was an accident.
Well, Rock, you've been the most, you were properly trained. You were trained officially, for the sport of wrestling and stuff. I'm sure you've had your share of potatoes, as they call them in the industry. What, in your history of wrestling, what was the worst gaffe you've ever done? I mean, I would be flabbergasted that you'd probably, right cross somebody in their face, but I'm pretty sure you probably got a stern talking to from your trainer, and it probably happened real early on, maybe in the training, if at all. But that just seemed, for her experience, obviously not a whole lot, that I can recall, even on the independent scene. She's basically a product of the Performance Center, but even that, and she went